SeattleBoatDetailing.com. Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to be wet sanding the end cap of this 2015 trailer that had gotten severely oxidized. Right here I'm just starting with 1000 grit sandpaper, and I'm going to work all the way down to 2000 grit during this video. And then I'm going to finish up with some heavy duty compound, some finer compound, and in the end it'll be looking like new. Stick around and check it out. So I should probably mention here that I taped all this lettering and all these vinyl edges that were going to be close to where I needed to sand. I suck at that. It took me 2 hours to get all that on there. Now I know probably some of you have done this before and you're thinking to yourself, what in the hell took you 2 hours? And all I can say is it was slow, it was tedious, it was windy. Like every time I ripped a piece of tape, it was literally trying to blow on itself and stick to itself instead of get to where I needed it. And just, you know, on the ladder, awkward positioning near the front where that trailer hitch sticks out. So it was just a big pain in the ass. Fortunately, I did the job right, and despite having to take 2 hours to tape it all off, still was a decent day for me. The entire job with taping, sanding, multiple steps of sanding. I think I used 1000, 1200, 1500, and 2000. Actually, I know I used that. So multiple steps of sanding, and then after that, multiple passes of polishing with varying degrees of compound. So I started out with this 1000 grit, just getting in and around those letterings to try and kind of conserve my tape and hopefully keep protecting those graphics. I ended up sanding the entire surface by hand with that 1000 grit by hand. Initially I was planning to use my orbital polisher with sanding discs to get the wide open areas, and I do switch to that later, but for this first initial cut with the 1000, I ended up just doing it all by hand. It was going really well and just kind of got in rhythm and a groove. So the most important things about wet sanding is keep your sandpaper and surface area very wet. That helps the material you're sanding flow away. You'll see that I'm re-wetting, wiping off just to take away that removed material, and then re-sanding, or in preparation for the next sanding in some cases if I'm not going back over it with this one. So at this point I was kind of wondering, what the heck did this customer put on this thing, because it almost seemed like there was just a heavy buildup of wax on it more than oxidation. So in the end I wasn't really sure what was causing all that flat, dull, really gray looking stuff on his coach here, but he definitely put some wax over the top of it that was pretty heavy. So right here he's showing me what he was using, and he's got like 4 different products, and I really didn't get a lot of information out of him showing me that, but it was interesting just to see and kind of hear what customers go through, and you know, the lengths they'll go to and what they'll try. Unfortunately, not really getting much results based on what he told me. Each product he would present, he would say, yeah, I got this on the internet and it didn't really do anything for me. And you know, it's just unfortunate, because I know that even as a professional in the beginning when I started doing this, it was kind of the same thing. I would just, you know, jump to product to product to product to product, trying to figure out what works best. Kind of overlapping. Usually when I'm doing overlapping of buffing or wet sanding, basically I go one line and then drop about 1/3 of the pad width down. So I'm overlapping by like 66% into that first line, and just go back and forth. And this worked out really well, other than having to just kind of hold it with one hand and spray at the same time.
It was so windy, it was just drying out quick. Plus I was in full sun, so that didn't help either. I just got soapy water in that, if I didn't mention it earlier. And just a little bit of car wash soap mixed with a lot of water. And I went through probably, I don't know, 10 fillings of this Hudson sprayer during this process, because it just took a lot of water to keep it wet. If you don't keep it wet, basically your sandpaper is going to get a bunch of trash in it that you're sanding away, and then you're no longer sanding, you're just moving material back over that surface. That's what the 1200 disc looks like. That's the backing. It's a Velcro. That's the front. That's the sanding side. So held up pretty good considering how much I done. But you can tell there's in here, that's where the pad got caked with the material I was taking away. And that's why it's so important to keep it wet so that doesn't happen. It got pretty dry at times because it's such a sunny day. I'm in direct sun. It's super windy, so all that's leading to it drying out. You'll notice in some of the shots I'm just sitting there constantly spraying it. Very important to keep it wet, so keep that in mind if you're going to do this. As my good buddy Andy would say, treat it like a first date. Start at the top and work your way down. Oh, and keep it wet. Alright, in here I'm just working pretty close to the bottom of these letterings. Definitely would not recommend this. I was trying to be super careful not to hit the letters, and I don't believe I did. Unfortunately, at the end you'll see there was a small section of the lettering just at the middle, very middle, where one of those black squiggly lines broke away. And honestly, I don't know if it was damaged before I started or if I did tap it with the polisher. So hopefully I did not do that, but honestly I don't know. And generally if you hit something, you know. So I believe it was already damaged, but in any event, very risky buffing with the sanding disc on a machine right up against any lettering or vinyl for that matter. Alright, so just more of the same. I'm just working down to a finer and finer sandpaper and getting it to the point where the compound I use to buff out the sand marks is going to be fine enough. If you stop short and you stop on a sandpaper that's too aggressive and too coarse, when you go to polish it, you're just still going to have a bunch of scratches. So that's why you've got to step it down and go to finer and finer sandpaper, which is what makes it take so long. And so here is my finest sandpaper. And it's just the last little pass I'm going to make over the entire thing before I get to buffing.
Of course, I've also got to step down the hand areas as well. So I'm just going back over the lettered areas in between the lettering by hand, reducing my grit on that sandpaper as well. And finally, getting to the compound, I'm going to start here with McGuire's Heavy Duty Oxidation Remover, which is a really gritty compound.
Now it's very gritty, almost feels like sand if you rub it between your fingers. So I got to do that first to get the heaviest scratches out, and then the white material that's sitting on the whatever that is, that's our other mix, which is diamond cut compound mixed with some flagship premium, and that'll be the last step. I think I had to cut this thing twice with the really heavy duty cut, and then I polished it multiple times more with that diamond cut flagship premium mix. So definitely was a long day, lots of buffing. I think I worked, I don't know, maybe 7 hours from start to finish if I took out any breaks or stops I had to make. So definitely not an easy task. It was a full day in the sun, but in the end we got it looking like new and shining and hopefully protected well for the owner. So despite all that tape work being a real big pain in the ass and just taking forever, I really was happy that I did it, and in the end it was worth it because I didn't destroy all of his lettering, and everything turned out well. So there you go.
Looking good.
Nice. What's going on, man? Not much. What you doing? Huh? Yeah, how's it going? You busy? That's good. Yeah, I got a couple, but I think I double booked somebody. So I got a sailboat that I need done. I think they're shoal. I think it's 40. What's that? Yeah. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if possible. I would expect. Pretty quick sailboat. Well, if you like to show up where you like to show up, you can probably do it in one day.